Check, check. Hey there guys, welcome to my Compound Life. I am Jonathan. This is a channel where we build assets, we build habits, and of course we build freedom. That would be financial freedom, time freedom for you, me, and anyone else that watches my videos. So, by the way, I make Bitcoin video almost on a daily basis. Apart from Bitcoin video, I also make Bitcoin video, YouTube, small content creator video, and any other personal finance related type of video. So hit the like, hit subscribe, and let me know in the comment section where you guys are watching from and which subscriber numbers you guys are. So I look forward to hear from every single one of you. Okay, so let's start with Bitcoin daily today. At the time of recording, it's the February the 4th, 2026, around 9 a.m. in the morning. And we're going to start with looking at Bitcoin price right now. Okay, so Bitcoin price is around $76,000. I think it's been trading between the range 76,000 to about 76,500 in the past 24 hours. So obviously went down small, about 2%, starting from around 78,500, hitting a high near about 77,000 and low at around 73,000. So we are around 40% away from the previous all-time high of around 126,000. Okay, and that was last year. Okay, so in the past day, of course, Bitcoin saw a sharp drop to levels not seen since November 2024, right? Let me see whether I can zoom out. So we essentially back to this time, November 2024. That was the peak when Trump were inaugurated. I think we did have a good run, right? Trump, a lot of great news from Trump being the Bitcoin president. And then, about 77,000, we shot up to about 126,000. That was a pretty decent run. Right? Are you in agreement? Because I simply think, you know what, that was having the Trump news was like the best for crypto than anything else, right? So imagine if we still let's not talk about politics. Let's not talk about politics. It's not for my channel, but just to highlight, you know what, we kind of back into November's period. And of course, I think from November 2024 until the peak of October 2025, this is pretty good, right? We had a pretty good run, okay? But of course, Bitcoin is back into this range. This current range seemed to be a very, very strong support. Until it's not. Okay, so we're currently back here. Maybe I want to drag this down a little bit. Yeah, so 72,000 continue to be that support. Let me see if we zoom out to 1 day. No, I think it's around here. 73,000 remains pretty strong support. And I think at any time, if we do drop further, knowing that it's a bear market, guys, it's a bear market that's being played out, potentially, you know what, we'll meet the 200 weeks moving average, which is this thin blue line, if you guys can see. At present, the 200 weeks moving average is about $58,000. And I think it will continue to go up by the time we kind of converge with the current Bitcoin price, maybe at around 59 or 60 or 61,000. Okay. So exactly, this is like exactly how things play out. Whenever you get into a bear market, likelihood of hitting the 200 weeks moving average can be quite high. So I do have a lot of expectation that this zone here will be a pretty strong support with plenty of buyers stepping in. You never know. I'm just a dude looking at charts, speculating. So not financial advice. Do your own research, guys. Okay, so how's the fear and greed index right now? Let's quickly look through it. Fear and greed index for Bitcoin. We are in extreme fear. I think we will have plenty of extreme fear. Wow, 5 out of 2 days. So mainly extreme fear now, which is fine because we all know that it's a bear market that we're going through, right? Historically, just a quick recap, the white line is the current cycle low. So this chart shows low to low, right? For the full cycle, right? Essentially, the entry of the cycle, it's the low. And then over 3 years of bull year, we get to the all-time high for Bitcoin. So white line is the current cycle. The blue line was the cycle before, and the yellow line is the cycle from before, right? So white line currently it's showing we are heading towards. I mean, we already started the bear market back in October, right, last year, after the high. And then this essentially is playing out, yeah? So bear that in mind, why the trends is showing how things are moving along, right? But of course, I think yesterday when the ISM data came out, there's a new narratives. I mean, it's not exactly new narratives. It's been spoke about by a lot of analysts over the past year, that Bitcoin 4-year cycle is broken. So a lot of people do believe that this 4-year cycle has been broken. And then essentially Bitcoin follows the ISM business cycle, and which it does make sense too, because Bitcoin for the past 4 cycles, at least for the past 3 cycles, follow closely with the ISM business cycle, right? So whenever liquidity has been eased, when the business manufacturing data, has been showing growth, well over 50, that's kind of like the data read, or well over 55, that's when Bitcoin price and as well as crypto and altcoin price will pump, right? So that's kind of another, can I say, hopium. A lot of Bitcoin holders are, looking forward to, right? However, at the same time, we always take every kind of trends into consideration, especially knowing that, Bitcoin is now getting into a bearish trend. So this is why things are playing out as it is. Okay, so bear that in mind, guys. Quick look in terms of ETF. ETF yesterday was pretty negative. It's majority of outflow. Apart from BlackRock buying $60 million, essentially most are just selling off. Okay, and if we take a quick look at Ethereum ETF, the same, only BlackRock buying with the rest essentially selling off. However, Ethereum ETF still returns a $14 million worth of inflow, which is good, I guess. And of course, quick look into Solana ETF yesterday, the 3rd of Feb. It's $0.9 million worth of inflow, right? Yeah. So maybe tiny inflow, but we'll see. So if we look through dollar cost average, guys, right? I think what I want to show is this. Okay, so because now I'm seeing a lot of people started their dollar cost averaging in. So that's why I kind of want to feel like let's do some back tests. Let's look at historical performance. So if we do dollar cost averaging for the past 4 years, and imagine if you're doing a daily dollar cost averaging of around $100. Okay, not a lot of money, but not small amount too, right? So imagine it's $100, right? And then you kind of get into the market essentially right now, right? So that's sometime somewhere here, like February the 4th, right? So you started your dollar cost averaging February the 4th, okay? So essentially every single day you put in $100, right? So what this green line is showing the Bitcoin price, and in terms of the yellow box shows you how much have you been accumulated so far, right? And of course it also showcased to you the number of Bitcoin that you've been able to accumulate, right? So if you start dollar cost averaging in, because yesterday I made one video that says, hey guys, dollar cost average, stay in the game, guys, right? So if you guys dollar cost average in, and over this period, it's actually the best period, right? Because this is when Bitcoin dips a lot, right? And essentially you guys just need, especially for the new viewers, or this is like your first cycle, this is something that you need to bear in mind, right? So Bitcoin always have a year worth of bear followed by 3 years worth of bull, right? So we are going through this period, and this period essentially is like the best time to to start dipping your toes into dollar cost average. And the more that you can dollar cost average at the low, the better, because you don't want a dollar cost average somewhere here, right? Because somewhere here Bitcoin price would be a lot higher up, right? So imagine if you did dollar cost average $100 per day for over 4 years period of time, your total investment will be around $146,000, right? Which in today's value, in the current value, is about $281,000. Okay, so giving you a good return of 92%. Okay, and the total Bitcoin that you've been able to accumulate will be around 3.63 Bitcoin, 3.68 Bitcoin. That's pretty decent, right? However, right? Oh yeah. However, look at if you lump sum in, how would that impact, right? So if you lump sum in on the same date, which is today, which is the 4th of February, like lump sum in this full amount, of course, the lump sum value will probably end up being less because it's 2 versus your dollar cost average in, your lump sum in would gives you $268,000 as opposed to $281,000 if you kind of DCA in. Okay, and of course, your lump sum in value will be a lot more less than your DCA in return, and of course, that will result in you having less Bitcoin, right? 3.5 Bitcoin if you do lump sum in versus 3.68 Bitcoin if you do, dollar cost averaging in. Okay, so one might argue, hey, dollar cost average is the perfect strategy, right? So that would be someone's argument, simply just looking at the time frame of 4 years accumulation of Bitcoin, right? However, what if we accumulated a longer period of time, right? But having said that, this longer period of time essentially means, we kind of extended the time frame. We accumulated Bitcoin at an earlier time frame, right? So sometime it probably just makes a lot of sense that many of us simply just need to get in early, get in hard, and have a longer time frame when it comes to looking at Bitcoin. Like, you accumulate Bitcoin not just for one full cycle, but for multiple cycles, right? So let me know in the comment section if you're just a tourist in for Bitcoin for one cycle, or you're just gonna hodl longer term, right? Let me know in the comment section. So imagine if you kind of do dollar cost average for 6 years ago, right? Same amount, $100, and somehow you've been through a few of this bear cycle. Makes sense, right? And essentially now looking at this, your total investment would be about $219,000, resulting you getting about $599,000, which gives you a good return of 173%, right? And in total, wow, you get about 7.8 Bitcoin. However, if we do lump sum in, this is actually a lot better, right? Same amount that you've invested. However, this time round, lump sum in this period, right, gives you a return of 1,829,000 versus dollar cost average of 599,000, right? So the lump sum in kind of return will be around 734% versus if you just dollar cost average 173%. Okay, and lump sum in, you actually get a lot more Bitcoin, because when you lump sum in, guys, you kind of buy that Bitcoin when Bitcoin price is low, right? Essentially means you get into Bitcoin early, and then you don't take into consideration of all of the CAGRs that has been, that Bitcoin will have the CAGRs every single year, right? Like the higher cost of Bitcoin. So essentially you're buying Bitcoin at this area, right? And then you hodl your Bitcoin for at least 2 cycles, and then you'll be able to see your good gains, right? So, of course, this is not financial advice, or, you guys have to do your own research, right? So it depends on the financial situation of everyone, I guess, because sometimes if your holding period of Bitcoin is a longer time frame, right, you're better off buying early, getting in early, getting hard, buy it early and hodl through, right, as opposed to DCA in. Okay, of course, some might simply have to rely on their paycheck and setting aside on a monthly basis to buy Bitcoin, then in that case, you know what, you just simply have to hold and buy and wait, and then have less gain. Okay, so that's what I want to show you guys. So of course, I mean, what do we all think? You know, especially viewers, I love to hear from you guys, right? So I've set up different polls on my on YouTube, right? Not many of you guys respond, so it's not exactly, you know, we can't be overly biased based on 9 votes. But overall, I think, you know, ask about what hits first for Bitcoin, a relief rally or a deeper gain, or deeper pain, not gain. So out of the 9 votes, by the way, it doesn't represent the whole population. Okay, so I think many of our viewers are thinking that we may actually hit the CME gap first. So a good bounce incoming, right? If that's the case, it'd be a good time to take some profit before we go even lower, right? But some actually think we'll hit the 200 weeks moving average at around 58K first. Okay, so a bear market test. Okay, I think a few of you probably just won out. Maybe it's your first cycle, right? Maybe this is your first time seeing such a huge Bitcoin drawdown, right? However, coming back to this, Bitcoin always draw down after the all-time high, right? And these will be the painful time that we all have to go through. But these are time where we simply have to DCA and buy in more, right? And I think by the time we get to the news section, what I'm also seeing is a lot of people actually, you know, started to DCA in. Not just people, but like big institution, right? Like the Binance. Yesterday we covered some other company. What's that British company again that did the buying in, which I can't remember. Let me see, the British company that bought in. Smarter Web company in the UK, you know, despite them making losses on their Bitcoin, but the CEO still insists of wanting to buy in. So this is why it kind of prompted me to think that, you know what, people have already started their DCA, because essentially they want to get in on this dip, right? Like how I've always communicated with you guys, right? Bitcoin will get to its bottom. Let me just flip this. Bitcoin will get to its bottom. That would be 500 days after, before the halving event, or essentially about a year, 12 months to 15 months after the all-time high, right? So this is where I think a lot of people started their DCA. I'm not sure whether they started off too early, or am I, if I do start my DCA in November, will I be too late, right? So how I'm kind of looking at this will be, you know, because a lot of people, like when I get into the news section, like it does seem Binance, although it says the SAFU fund that they're establishing, you know, where they're converting all of their stablecoin into Bitcoin. I reckon, you know, the reason that Binance is doing it is because they know that there's not much point holding stablecoin, holding USD. You're better off holding more Bitcoin that increase in value during this bear period, right? So that's why Binance started, you know, their kind of DCA journey, right? And I'm kind of thinking, am I too late if I get into DCA sometime in October, right? Or this specific cycle, it could probably, the fact that we didn't have a rally, we didn't have a parabolic rally, so perhaps the bear market can be shortened this time round. So that's why a lot more people, institutions are kind of DCA-ing in early as opposed to much later in October, November period. Okay, so that's something to bear in mind. So that's something I'm kind of looking into too. Okay, so obviously in the poll, I think many of you guys are thinking maybe we'll hit the CME gap first. Some are actually thinking maybe we'll get into the 200 weeks moving average first. So whichever way it is, right, if we do get into the 200 weeks moving average at 58,000, that's where I would start to do some heavy DCA. I think that's a pretty fair price for Bitcoin. And of course, I asked about ISM hopium, what happens to Bitcoin next. Actually, many of you guys still think that we may actually get to another all-time high above 126,000 by 2026, right? By this year, right? Which I think is a bit of a hopium. Of course, I would love that to happen, but if not, that's fine. I do actually look forward to the next cycle top, right? Which in a way I actually much prefer if we get to the bottom fast, right? So that we are ready to get to the next cycle, and so that it also proves that the Bitcoin 4-year cycle remain, and it will continue to run like the 4-year cycle continue to run like clockwork, right? So we'll see. And of course, I think Tom Lee says Bitcoin bottom and going parabolic. Do you believe the hype or nah? I think many of you guys are saying that nah, more pains ahead. I think simply put, Bitcoin is a bear cycle this year, so that's why a lot of us still believe that price will continue to drop. Okay, this one might be more representative because it's 24 votes. Okay, be honest, what hits first? 55k Bitcoin, or so bearish 55k Bitcoin, or bullish 105 Bitcoin, right? I can't say get back to all-time high, but at least give us a good dead cat bounce. So many of us think that this year is a bearish year, and 55k 200 weeks moving average, it's sensible, right? So I'm here to take out all of the hype, the sandbag stuff for all of you guys, right? Because we can't just keep on listening to Tom Lee, right? Because Tom Lee's got a different motivation. He's getting paid to hype things up in the market, right? Whereas I don't get paid. I'm just trying to manage my bag. I'm just trying to manage when to enter, when to exit my Bitcoin. And I'm just here to manage you guys so that, especially the ones that are new and this is your first cycle, right? I'm hoping I'm able to give you guys some support, right? So yes, many of us are very, very conservative and sensible, thinking that Bitcoin will get to 55k first. Some still think we'll get up to about 105k, right? And there are a few just, I want out, I want to sell everything. I know how that feels, right? So please, if financially permits, right, continue to hodl, because things will get better, guys, right? So we are somewhere here right now, okay? And then this will be the pain period that we need to get through. And if you guys look at multiple cycles, right? Okay, it doesn't show. No, it doesn't show that clearly. So yeah, I think essentially if we just look through this, we're somewhere here. We need to go through this pain, right? And this definitely is a pain that once you get through it, you get your multiple years of bull market. Hopefully. Okay, non-financial advice, do your own research. Okay. So let's move on to the news section. News that move Bitcoin price section. I'm not going to cover anything US government shutdown because I think that's a nothing burger. That's not going to impact the Bitcoin price anytime soon. Okay. However, what I want to chat about will be this. Will Michael Saylor, the company MicroStrategy, right, go bankrupt soon? Will Saylor be this Bitcoin cycle's capitulation, right? There's a lot of headline fears right now, especially Bitcoin dipped so much. And here's the balance sheet reality that I want to show you guys, right? So Bitcoin dipped below MicroStrategy's average buy price, right? And it's flashing a 900 million paper loss. Okay, so Michael Saylor hasn't sold a Bitcoin yet. So what exactly is the panic's take, right? So is strategy about to go bankrupt? Or will the ticker symbol, or will MicroStrategy, MSTR, be forced to dump Bitcoin? Okay, because I reckon a lot of you guys that are into Bitcoin, at the same time, many of us actually hold MicroStrategy too, because I hold a bag of MicroStrategy, so that's why I cared a lot too, right? And the answer is no, right? And here's why, right? So this move, this similar situation, right? Bitcoin dip situation has already played out before, right? So in last cycle, Strategy's average Bitcoin price, BTC cost, was around $30,000 per Bitcoin. And of course, Bitcoin fell to $16,000, right? That's about 45% below cost. As a result, MicroStrategy, Michael Saylor, so zero forced selling, zero liquidation for that company, right? The key detail most missed: Strategy's Bitcoin is not used as collateral. Okay, that means no margin calls tied to Bitcoin price, no auto liquidation on dips. So their debts is largely unsecured with maturities in 2028 and 2030, not tomorrow, not anytime soon, right? Especially not within this bear market, okay? This bear period, 2026, right? So the maths that matters. So total debt for MicroStrategy is about $8.24 billion. And of course, Bitcoin holding value, they've got about $53.5 billion. And they've got a cash runway of approximately 2.5 years set aside for interest and dividends. So in a way, MicroStrategy, Michael Saylor, or Strategy, they don't need to sell Bitcoin to meet any of this obligation, right? Even if price stays below cost for a while, only for a while, right? So I reckon for a while, it's essentially for the rest of 2026. Okay, so what actually changes? And to be honest, nothing changed, right? A short-term move below average cost doesn't mean it will break liquidity. It doesn't threaten solvency. It doesn't even force sell. like force MicroStrategy to sell Bitcoin. Yes, Saylor did said before, if Bitcoin stayed below cost for a very, very, very long time, I think that implies to more than 2.5 years, selling could eventually be considered, right? But that's the long duration scenario, not a short-term dip. So bottom line, below cost equal forced selling narratives doesn't really match strategy's balance sheet right now. Okay, so he doesn't need to sell. So it's fear based on headlines, not structural. So Saylor still has about 2+ years of cash to pay interest and shareholders without selling a single Bitcoin. So this dip doesn't force anything. Okay. Whereas actually, I'm actually thinking why Saylor continue to buy, because he sees that the CAGR of Bitcoin will continue to go up, and you know, knowing Saylor, like the rest of Bitcoiners, Bitcoin hodlers, that we have conviction on Bitcoin for a longer period of time. The earlier you can buy, the harder that you can get in, right? The better it will be, right? It's being shown in this DCA model, like lump sum in versus DCA in. Okay, so, I mean, Saylor, it's a bit of a DCA with a huge lump sum in a way. Okay. Other headlines. Okay, this is not good, right? So Bitcoin drops to lowest price since Trump's election victory, right? So these are headlines that are scaring the buyers away. Yeah, I think Bitcoin fell below 73,000 on February the 3rd, yesterday. It's lowest since Trump won in November 2024. This came amid broader market nerves, with stocks also tumbling, right? It's not just Bitcoin, guys, stocks too. Yeah, I think these are headlines will, you know, continue to drive Bitcoin price lower, in a way to shake out the paper hand, I guess, right? Which, by the way, you know, sometimes I say this, like paper hand, diamond hand. If it's a time for you guys to take profit, just take it, right? You know, it doesn't mean you're a paper hand, okay? It's just a saying that people uses, right? And in fact, it shouldn't affect your mentality, shouldn't affect your sentiment, it shouldn't affect your decision to take profit or get into Bitcoin. Okay. Moving on to other interesting news section. Okay, I want to cover this. Not this. Binance SAFU, right? So Binance. So this is where I'm kind of thinking: is Binance doing DCA now? Is he early in his DCA, or is he expecting that the bear cycle will be shorter, right? The bear cycle dip will be less dip, because this time around the Bitcoin all-time high has been capped. It hasn't been parabolic. So hence the bear cycle can be shorter, and the bear dips can, you know, can be less dip. Okay, so Binance SAFU funds buys another 1,315 Bitcoin worth $100 million, right? So guys, background again, Binance is the biggest crypto exchange in the world. They have this thing called SAFU fund. What does SAFU means? I think it stands for Secure Asset Fund for Users. Okay, so it's kind of like an insurance pot of money they set aside to protect users if something bad happens, like a hack or a problem on the exchange. However, if you have the expectation that, you know what, there has been some liquidation of long during October time or last weekend, no, this SAFU fund doesn't cover that. Okay, so last week on January 30th, 2026, Binance announced they will change their fund from holding stable coins, which are like digital dollars, by the way, that stay $1 in value, and swap that into Bitcoin. So they plan to move about $1 billion worth over the next 30 days, right? So they're not going to immediately buy it and then cause Bitcoin to shoot up, right? They're going to start to have that transition over the next 30 days, right? So this means they buy approximately $33 million of Bitcoin each day. So the first buy took place on the February 2nd, where they bought about 1,315 Bitcoin for $100 million. And now this is another buy upcoming on the February the 4th, which will be today, right? So CZ, the founder of Binance, Changping Zhao, right? He said he does not believe in a big super cycle for Bitcoin right now because of a lot of fear and bad news in the market, right? Because everyone's are blaming CZ and Binance for, that caused the whole liquidation long last year, and as well as recent weekend drops. But of course, Binance is doing this to show they are sorry for a big problem in October 2025, and they want to help people and make sure that their money, their assets remain safe, where many people lost money in liquidation. And of course, a lot of people blame Binance for some of that mess. It's a good thing Binance did this, right? To have that SAFU fund, right? Especially knowing that currently a lot of FUD, which means fear, uncertainty, doubt, not just on Binance, but overall in the Binance, in Bitcoin as well as crypto sphere, right? So by moving to Bitcoin, so this is kind of like, why are they moving to Bitcoin? If you want 10 billion, 1 billion SAFU fund, just, put that into stablecoin, right? So by moving to Bitcoin, they want to build trust again. I mean, that's what Binance claim, right? Also, if Bitcoin price drop and the fund value goes below 800 million, Binance pledge to add more money to bring it back to $1 billion worth, right? So this all sounds like freaking DCA guys, right? I've got some money that's stashed up, $1 billion, right? And very likely this $1 billion, I'm not going to use it anytime soon. Knowing that we are in a bear market, dollars continue to debase, right? And why should I keep more money when there will be less trading activities going on in the exchange, where I don't have to immediately move funds around to liquidate long or liquidate short, because there'll be less traders during the bear market. Of course, there'll be heaps of short traders, right? But overall, in terms of trading activities, it's gonna be very, very minimal, right? And very likely, me, Binance, I don't probably need $1 billion SAFU fund, right? And the best thing is, knowing Bitcoin, this is like the time Bitcoin will be at its cheapest. Why not just buy more Bitcoin, right? And continue to buy that and hodl it for a year. And then when I need the money to be more liquid in stablecoin, then I'll just sell the Bitcoin at a profit and then move that into stablecoin. I mean, it's so clever, right? So this is why I kind of felt, oh man, that's a good evidence of DCA-ing, right? And of course it's DCA-ing with lump sum, a pretty huge lump sum, but that's spread across multiple days, right? And what they're trying to do, guys, is to capture this bottom period. And this bottom period, they are DCA-ing with $1 billion worth, right? Man, that's pretty good. That's pretty clever. Yeah, so why switch from stablecoin to, this money, right? Why stablecoin can have risks, like if the company behind them has issue, right? USDT, USDC, which, by the way, I think I'm seeing a lot more money moving into USDC recently. I think the fact that, USDC does have a lot of government approval. I think once Clarity bill pass, it's going to make this stablecoin a lot more approved in a way by the US government, right? So that's why, I mean, for me, even for me to, sometimes sell, I also get into stablecoin. I kind of spread the risk between USDT and USDC just in case, right? But having said that, USDT is also very strong too, because they kind of buy gold to back up their stablecoin. But anyway, I'm just an internet guy, so I might be wrong every now and then. So not financial advice. I think this definitely shows strong positive feeling from Binance, a huge player in crypto. They're the biggest, guys. They're the biggest. Betting big on Bitcoin even when prices are low and market is scared. So it captures hope that big buys like this can help stop the drop or stand a turn around pretty soon, right? So I'm always thinking, does Binance know something? Are they predicting that the bear market will be shorter, right? Or the bottom is in already, right? So that's why they're DCA-ing pretty hard right now. Okay, you never know. Other news. This one is pretty interesting. This one. Wales sold 5,076 Bitcoin worth $384 million, taking a $118 million loss. Okay, so does this signal bottom or people just selling at losses now? Interesting. So this whale should just watch my channel and watch my video. Make sure, guys, if you're not in profit right now is not the best time to sell, unless you really need that money for something else, right? If you can, financially permits you to do so, just remain strong, hodl this. We are about approximately 4 months out of the 12 months of bear period, right? So bear that in mind. And last hopium, okay, 2 hopiums that I want to bring out. One of it comes out from Pantera Capital. CEO says Bitcoin will be massive and it will massively outperform gold. So Dan Moorhead of Pantera said on 4th of Feb, BTC will outperform gold over next decades. Okay, and this will definitely play out, right? Look at gold's market cap right now, about $35 trillion. Look at Bitcoin, $1.5 trillion, right? So gold definitely front run this time round because a lot of people are afraid of whatever the hell is happening right now globally, right? But at the same time, Bitcoin has a lot of support from the US government, right? And a lot of, not support, but a lot of approval from the US government. And Bitcoin, it's kind of in a transition process now. It makes it feel kind of awkward because, you know what, it has always been in the Wild West. It's trying to get into the TradFi, but at the same time, there's a lot of restriction for Bitcoin to get into it, right? However, the fact that it's got into it now, it needs to have that approval from the rest of the investors too, and that takes time and persuasion. Like, start with Bank of America saying that everyone needs at least 4% allocation in Bitcoin. That was mentioned last year, sometime in Q3, Q4. But for any investors, especially the wealthy one, the high net worth individual, for them to start to pivot into Bitcoin, it takes time, right? Maybe it's 4%, right? And gradually, when things improve, maybe that will increase, right? So I reckon eventually, one day, very, very soon, I think this estimation of a decade, 10 years, probably makes sense, because look at this, $35 trillion, right? So Bitcoin has the same characteristic as gold, right? It doesn't have any counterparty risk. It has that store of value. And it's actually even better than gold, especially, imagine you have to buy gold bullion, right, and carry that around. Would you rather carry around that gold bullion? I know I carry that gold chain sometime, right? Imagine if you have to carry gold bullion and then you have to get to another country, right? And then going through customs gonna start to want to tax you, stuff like that. So it's not easily transportable or transferable buying gold. Or paper gold. You don't want to buy paper gold. There's too much manipulation too, right? But anyway, I think that's a hopium. And one last final hopium that I want to bring you all to is this. Let's switch this on. Eric Trump shows off his Bitcoin mining facility. So Eric Trump shared his BTC mining set up on February the 4th, 2026, highlighting families' involvement in crypto. Okay, which is good, right? You guys should watch this.
Hey friends, Eric Trump. Welcome to American Bitcoin. It's a little sneak peek of our facility in Texas using American energy to mine Bitcoin right here on American soil. We could not be more proud of this facility. 35,000 of these servers right here, all liquid cooled, securing the network, mining Bitcoin. Every single day we mine about 2% of the world's Bitcoin supply, and we safeguard it every single day. So when people say that cryptocurrency is intangible, it's not. It's very tangible. And this right here, guys, is living proof. Take a look at the company. Come join us. We could not be more excited about our growth. I truly believe that we're building one of the great crypto companies anywhere on Earth.
Fantastic, right? So Trump family push could speed up pro-crypto policies. And it really does matter to all of us, right? It matters for, well, at least matters for US Bitcoin news, okay? And of course, I think will be good for all of us Bitcoin holders, okay? So overall summary for the day, 24 hours, Bitcoin dipped hard to about 73,000, but bounced back. It had a good bounce back, 76, 77,000. With some outflow of ETF not strong, no one wants to buy. However, I kind of felt DCA is back, right? Like what Binance is doing, what many other companies are doing. I reckon DCA it's something that should be top of our mind right now. Okay, but anyway, not financial advice. Do your own research. That's it for today, guys. So if you like the video, please drop a like, hit subscribe, support me as a small content creator, and drop a comments below. Let me know where you guys come watching from. It's always nice to hear from all my viewers. Okay, so have a great day, guys, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.